Welcome to my PIDP 3250 presentation on simulation-based learning. My name is Jeremy Boyne, and I'd like to begin with a story. The year was 1997, the place, the Ontario Science Centre, 11 kilometers north of Toronto. Ah yes, the Science Centre, a mainstay Canadian institute of fun, frivolity, and yes, active learning. It was a typical Saturday morning. I hit all my favorite exhibits. I touched that ball thing that makes my hair frizzy, counted pine cones, acquainted myself with cutting-edge technology, played with radiation, spent a few hours at the old sneeze machine. When I turned a corner and saw an exhibit I'd never seen before, it was a large black box with an ornate door and a sign reading, "This is a simulation. Enter at your own risk." I opened the door and walked inside. It was a small room with metal steel bars.
Welcome to the compassion experiment. If you have pre-existing heart issues, please exit the simulation at once. During World War II, people were transported across Europe by railway in cars no bigger than a small closet.
The bars moved closer.
Slave ships from Africa carried people in cages no bigger than this.
The room continued to get smaller.
Endangered species are stuffed into cages for people to use as pets. Would you want to be one of these horses? Yeah, I didn't think so. Not too fun being a factory farmed fish, is it? The average wiener dog lives in a cage half its life. Just because those legs are short, doesn't mean they don't have to be stretched, man.
I exited the simulation, heart pounding and hands sweaty. No amount of pine cone counting or sneeze machine manipulation would break me free of this feeling. And now, almost 20 years later, I remember this experience vividly. It was undeniably transformative. So let's talk about simulation-based learning. What is it? What are the best practices? And what are the pros and cons? Simulation-based learning is the intersection of three active learning components. Authentic assessment, which according to Elizabeth Barkley is the ways and the contexts in which a person's abilities are tested in real-world situations. Situated cognition, which is a theory that people's knowledge is linked to the activity, context, and culture in which it was learned. And problem-based learning, which is a wholly learner-centered strategy where students learn about a subject or topic through an open-ended problem, often accomplished through collaboration. Simply put, SBL is a learning model that provides learners with an experience of working on a simplified simulated world or system. Robert Gagne created a simple criteria for SBL. It should represent a real-world situation, should provide the user with certain controls, and should omit certain distractions or variables are relevant or unimportant for the particular instructional goal. But where did this all start? The Link Trainer, a flight simulator, was built in 1929 to teach pilots how to fly by instruments. Beginning in the 1960s with anesthesia simulators, SBLs in the field of medicine didn't take off until the 1980s. Today, SBLs are used in a wide range of industries: military, sports, biomechanics and science, finance and economics, and of course, business and education. But why is it so important in business and education? Well, according to studies conducted by Deloitte and TD.org, 70% of all corporate professionals in North America are disengaged. 22% of new employees quit within 44 days of employment. 75% of employees say that training plays an important role in their decision to remain at their current role. 80% leave their job due to their manager. And professional employees surveyed stated that only 1% of their week is dedicated to learning and development. That's actually a gas mask and a typewriter. Simulations aren't by any means limited to the digital world. They're often analog and are typically live, virtual, or they're commonly used in blended e-learning curriculum, informally with one-on-one training utilizing mentoring and cognitive apprenticeships, used as an instructional strategy in classroom learning, and applied in process and procedural training. Successful implementation of an SBL follows a basic instructional design template, from needs analysis to designing learning objectives, to assessing outcomes of training scenarios to trigger event exercises, where scenarios are strategically chosen to appropriately trigger the required competency. To developmental feedback, where debriefing and reflection are considered the most important aspects of the activity. The role of the participant is to be active and responsible in his or her own learning. SBLs often elicit individualized outcomes that are discerned and articulated through debriefing and reflection. The instructor role is that of a guide, facilitator, and member of the learning group. They may need to model or explain specific actions or procedures and use corrective measures midstream, so the role of the instructor is much more variable. Some pointed best practices are to make learning objectives clear and specific, develop appropriate performance assessment models. Remember that replication is not simulation. It's often better to use slightly abstract or analogous exercises if learning objectives are behavioral in nature or related to soft skills. And use scaffolding strategies to make the learning exercises iterative or chunked. Let's take a look at pros and cons of simulation-based learning. The pros should be quite self-evident. It's an authentic assessment. Students can learn through trial and error in a safe, consequence-free environment, and there's a whole host of positive outcomes listed here. Some of the cons are that intensive preparation is needed. It's very easy for some learners to trivialize the experience, especially those participating in role plays where they may view their role as something hypothetical. And even though solutions are affordable, if not free these days, extensive time is needed to prepare an SBL. So how exactly will I use simulation-based learning? Well, I'm currently designing a 4-quadrant gamified psychometric evaluation, and to use in conjunction with a thorough needs analysis, I'll design business simulations, real-world interaction activities, and role plays geared for leadership development, onboarding, and competency training, as well as soft skills development. This will be rolled out not just for org development opportunities, but as part of a curriculum building for educational purposes as well.